Okay, Charles, if you want to start the meeting.
Sure. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call the August 3rd, 2020 Appearance Review Commission meeting to order. Welcome to all of our commission members, our applicants, and members of the public. Before we start, I'd like to take a roll call for the commission members. Lucas, if you could call the roll for that, please.
Yes. Nada Andrick?
Here.
Richard Bill?
Here.
Debbie Castellano?
Here.
Doug Johnson?
Here.
Mason Miller? Not present. Jeffrey Saad?
Here.
And Charles Smith?
Here. Thank you. What I'd like to do for everyone involved is to first read off the agenda so you know the events that we're going to conduct over the course of the next period of time. We have minutes from our last meeting dated June 29th that we will review and approve. We have a consent agenda that we will discuss and approve. Today we have three formal cases. We'll be starting with the case AR 2020 AR 11, which is the 2031 Elmwood Avenue Ronald Knox Montessori application. We'll then proceed to the 2020 AR 04 Laramie Avenue 111 Laramie Avenue Loyola Academy project. And then we will have the 2020 AR 09 1010 Central Avenue, the BK Wilmette Lodge application. And then we will, after those cases are discussed and voted upon, we will have an opportunity for the public to comment, and then we will adjourn. Lucas, could you please let any public members that are listening in and participating, how they might participate during the course of this meeting?
Sure. Yeah, there's a couple ways that members from the public can participate. We're on Microsoft Teams, so that's probably the easiest way and best way, because you can get both audio and video. We're also streaming live on the Village's YouTube channel, so you can follow along and comment. There's a chat section in YouTube Live where you can comment. We have someone checking those messages throughout the meeting. There's also an opportunity to message using Teams. So when the time is appropriate, if anyone on this Teams call wishes to ask a question, they can do so in the chat box. I would ask everyone who's in attendance to mute themselves unless they are speaking. We've got quite a few people on the call just to reduce feedback and excess noise when people are presenting. And there's also the opportunity to call in, and those instructions are on the website.
Thank you. There's a presumption that, this is a legal meeting, a legal proceeding, and all testimony this afternoon must be given under oath. If you're here and are planning to testify, I'd ask that you raise your hand. We're going to do this virtually and go on the honor system and be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm that you will tell the truth in the testimony that you are about to give? If so, please say, I do. Thank you. We'll assume that's the affirmative by everybody. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes. Minutes were distributed to all of the commission members last week, and I'd like to ask if there are if there's a nomination to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Okay, second.
Very good. I'd like to ask before we formally approve the minutes, if there are any comments or modifications that commission members would like to make. Hearing none, Lucas, could you call the roll, please?
Yep. Nada Andrick,
Yes.
Richard Brill,
Approved.
Devin Castellano,
Yes.
Doug Johnson,
Yes.
Jeffrey Saad,
Yes.
and Charles Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. We have one item on our consent agenda this afternoon, and that is for item number 2020 AR-13, Our Place at 1020 Forest Avenue. Lucas, could you give us a brief overview of that?
Sure. This request is for institutional use in our residential zoning district. They're located inside a church, and they're requesting an approval for an appearance review certificate to install a pole-mounted ground sign, which is conforming and non-illuminated. And if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Okay, Lucas, one quick question. What is Our Place?
My understanding is it's essentially an adult daycare center.
Okay,
I guess that's the technical zoning definition of how they're classified.
So I'll ask the commission members, are there any further comments or questions on this, considering that it's a conforming application?
I have a question for you, Lucas.
Yes.
Is the sign placement that far from the building and close to the sidewalk within code?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Doug?
Yeah, the sign is kind of way out in front of the building and towards the sidewalk. I just wondered if that were in code. I'd never seen kind of a commercial sign like that.
Yeah, in terms of location, they need 100 feet of frontage in order to have a ground sign, and they do at this particular property. There's not in terms of the code, there's not a specific location where they're required to have the sign as long as it's on the property.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, Lucas, could you please call a vote roll?
Oh, sorry. Was there a motion and second?
There was. Richard, didn't you second that?
I'd be glad to. Second.
I thought I heard someone. Okay, very good. Thank you, Richard.
Okay. Nada Andrick?
Approve. Agree.
Richard Bill?
Yes.
Devin Castellano?
Yes.
Doug Johnson?
Yes.
Jeffrey Satt?
Yes.
And Charles Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Now we move on to the cases for this afternoon. The first case we'd like to review is case 2020 AR-11, 21 Avenue, the paving project for the Ronald Knox Montessori School. Is the applicant present?
Yes.
Could you please state your name and address for the record, and then be so kind as to present your project to us?
Of course. My name is Christine Roloff, and I'm currently serving as the president of the Ronald Knox Montessori School Board of Directors. The school resides at 2031 Elmwood Avenue in Wilmette, and our project is it was a fundraising project that we did with the families last year at our annual benefits. And the project is simple. It's to remove and replace in the same location existing concrete to new concrete pavers.
Very good. Thank you, Christine. And it looks like in our packet, you have identified the material itself. And it appears that you have drawing and material. You want to elaborate on that, or shall I put it over to a group for question?
You kind of blurred out a little bit in what you stated, but I think if you can point it over to the group for questions. That's fine.
Okay. Why don't we go around the group, and I'll ask individually. People could please respond. And Doug, why don't we start with you?
I just want to double check that the pavers go in the area that's outlined in red on the drawing.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Nada?
I would like to commend the school for doing that. I looked at that installation, and I think it's going to be a great improvement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're very excited about the families. We're very, very excited, and we hope it's something we can build upon for years to come. Thank you.
Richard?
Project looks fine.
Jeff?
Looks good.
Okay, I had one question, and maybe I didn't read deep enough, but my question is, it appears that there are 3 different colors of the paving material, and is it the intent to select one of them, Christine, for the project?
Yes. Yes, it's just the intent to select one which will have the best match, like the best aesthetic. He chose those, and then once the project is approved, he'll bring the 3 different options, and we will choose the best fitting one that just matches the aesthetic and looks best with the surrounding concrete.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to confirm if that was the intent, or if it was the intent to mix.
No, yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions. So, Lucas, if you could please call the roll.
Just need a motion and a second.
So a motion.
I motion the approval of case number 2020 AR11 as presented, and consider it a great improvement for the neighborhood.
Second?
Is that Doug?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Nada Andrick?
Yes?
Richard Brill?
Yes.
Devin Castellano?
Yes.
Doug Johnson?
Yes.
Jeffrey Saad?
Yes.
And Charles Smith?
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Christine.
Thank you all very much.
Good luck. Okay, we will now move on to case number 2020 AR 04 1111 Laramie, Loyola. And I see that Dennis is on the line. And Dennis, are you presenting with others yourself?
Yeah, no, I'm presenting on behalf of Loyola Academy and the team. Sarah Lundgren will really be taking over the meat of the call. She's from K&S Architects. Perfect.
Yes.
Let me just start by, first of all, thanking everybody. I know this is kind of a crazy time, and for you guys to keep the ball rolling and adapting, thank you for timelines are important in these things, and we're grateful. But before I hand everything over, I do want to talk about the opportunity in front of us. I think what you are going to hear is a little bit of and enthusiasm and pride, not just in the project, but in what we're going to be able to provide to our neighbors, and the pride that they're going to have in this, the beauty and the story behind this project. So at Loyola Academy, we need more opportunities for our kids interested in arts. The Jesuit tradition is based on dialogue. It's based on conversation, learning from others. And in a time like this, where we need to focus on conversations and open dialogue and communication, there's no more important time to be building a performing arts center on our campus than right now. As a little bit of a background, could you move to the next page? As a little bit of a background, I just want to let you know a few things. We did have some meetings with our neighbors. We had a neighborhood meeting right before coronavirus hit on February 12th. And we showed initial drawings, initial pictures, and so on and so forth. Some of it had to do with the success of phase 1, and it also, we took the opportunity to introduce phase 2. Unfortunately, we had to have our July 8th meeting virtually, but we had pretty good attendance, and we were able to, some questions, some common themes rose to the top that gave us the opportunity to celebrate phase 1, but also talk about some things, some concerns that they might have in phase 2. And really, what it did is it did provide us the opportunity to answer questions. Some of those questions were about shadows, or the new location on the northeast corner of the campus, sight line, the view line from different areas in the neighborhood, and then what kind of neighborhood impact it would have in terms of traffic, stormwater, so on and so forth. There was also questions about the trees, the type, the species of trees that would happen, that would be planted on campus, and the trees we'd lose. So what was nice is we were able to work with our community and our neighbors. We've really changed the relationship in the neighborhood. Phase 1 gave us the opportunity and being more transparent in that, and then it's really helped us in phase 2. Phase 1, I just want you to look at the original master plan. It really was based around a natatorium expansion and some new parking, circulation, stormwater, but the overall concept was built, you'll see the little red box here, that was the original space for our Performing Arts Center, and that was basically that was the whole plan. If you go back to one more slide, nope, go back one more slide, there you go. This is what was approved. The conceptual master plan was just a courtesy. This is what was approved. The purple box is the pool, which I believe is the next page, is some pictures. You'll see, I think everybody in the neighborhood, all that have come for a tour, and if any of you are driven by, we are proud, one of the proud owners of the best pools in the area, but it also really answered some circulation and some parking questions, and I think we did so without sacrificing any sort of design. It was actually a chance for us to improve our campus, which I think the neighbors would tell you. If you go to the next page, we start to talk about phase 2, site plan. You'll notice the original box, the red box was the original location. Sarah Lundgren, our architect at K&S, can talk specifically as to why the location was moved to the back from an architectural standpoint. But what I can tell you is it really made sense in one thing. It was connected to the school. Originally, it had been as a separate building. And also just the impact on the neighbors and the impact on the neighborhood. And finally, if you'll notice that grass area just south of the purple building, that's our quad. And I remember a meeting where they said, build a theater, gain a quad. It just really encloses the quad there. And this putting it back here in this back corner, the northeast corner, really helped with landscaping, parking and circulation, and again, impact on the neighborhood. So I think we're in a really good spot. I think what Sarah and her team has done is amazing. And I think we're doing this through a very weird time, this COVID stuff. I think we're going to be ready when when hopefully the COVID thing starts to be behind us, that we're going to be something to celebrate as soon as we get out of it. So from here, what I'll do is I'll hand it over to Sarah Lundgren, our architect from K&S, from Cook and Sexton, and she can walk you through more of the specifics of the structure.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Lundgren. Thank you very much for joining us today and for inviting us to participate in this. What we really have is a 550-seat theater that we're adding to the campus. This is a multi-range theater, so it's for all types of performing arts. It's for theatrical, dance, performance, vocal, orchestra. And so that has driven a lot of the decisions that have been made on the campus. It has driven a lot of decisions that have been made about the massing. And to Dennis's point before, we can maybe talk about some of these other bullet points relative to location, programming, and structure in the preceding slides that will be more visuals. So as we mentioned, the site that we chose was on the northeast corner of the campus, and this location is really best suited both for the campus and for the neighborhood. It's probably most poorly suited for a performing arts center in terms of acoustics, and so some of the things that drove our structure and our material decisions have been related to acoustical performance and the fact that we are directly adjacent to I-94. But what we're looking at here is a site plan, and it shows the relationship of the building to Illinois Road. It shows that we're keeping the parking intact along Illinois Road. There are a number of spaces that we're removing as part of this project, but we're keeping the total number of spaces that was required by the zoning ordinance. And basically moving from, let's say, the right-hand side of the building to the left-hand side of the building. On the left-hand side, on the right-hand side of the building is our back of house, and we basically have 4 volumes. The back of house, which is directly connected to the existing east wing of the school. There's a shadowed portion in the middle of that area that is a mechanical well, and you'll see that in section. We're specifically depressing all of the mechanical equipment for the school, for the Performing Arts Center, in order to perform acoustically, not only for the building but for the neighborhood. Next to the left is the fly tower, which is a taller structure that allows us to swing program up. Just as a note, we have Schuler Shook on the call, so we've got a large team that's been coordinating with us. Mark Sexton, Tom Jacobs from Crick and Sexton are here today. Keith Friedlander from Schuler Shook is here today. Catherine Kennefake from Cohen, and from Terra, and then we also have Cohen Landscape Partners with us today to explain some of the landscape. So they're also going to be participating in this presentation. But from the fly tower to the left is the theater house, and then the next volume to the left of that is the lobby. And so really we're using the building to create a quad space, this new kind of heart of the campus for Loyola, and creating a landscaped experience from the entryway all the way into the quad to help shield it, to help give privacy to the neighbors on Illinois, to help give privacy to the campus. So this is a section that's cut through the building. It's part section, part axon, that gives you a sense of the scales of the spaces. And here you can see those 4 distinct volumes. We're trying to render those as 4 distinct volumes, as you'll see later in the elevations. But as you move through the building, you go up 2 feet in order to get to the entry level. There's a slight plinth there, which we're using as an exterior stage condition that connects it directly to the lobby. And that's a very Jesuit experience for this project. It's kind of the heart of the relationship to the quad. As you move through the building, you get to the theater house, and what's shown here is something that has kind of set up the baseline for the height of our building, which is the water table. So the water table on our site is about 6 feet below the 0-0 line for the site. So it's about 8 feet below our ground floor. That's the lowest point of the pit. From there up, we get the height of our fly tower. So for our performance, we have a 24-foot high proscenium opening, which is 26'0" nominal dimension. From there, we have a 27-foot high to the bottom of our curtain. When you fly the curtain up So it's a 25-foot high curtain. You get to a top of line set surface of grid, which is 55 feet, 57 feet. And the line set is the thing that hangs all of the scenery and the elements that become part of the daily workings of the stage. From there, 2 feet up is the surface of the grid, which is a walkable surface that is necessary for maintenance on a very regular level within the fly tower. And then from there, you have to be 8 foot up to the bottom of the roof structure. Then you get the bottom of the roof slab, and then you get the top of the parapet. So all of these things add up to be 75'6" as our highest dimension for the building. We're currently working on reducing that, and we had a meeting with the zoning board of appeals a number of weeks ago, and it was approved unanimously, which was wonderful. But the reasons for all of these height differentials is really because of safety. So for Loyola to provide a safe experience for their campus, for their students, for all of the people who will be operating this is really the reason why we're looking towards using a fly tower, and this is the reason why Loyola has been committed to a fly tower. So we wanted to at least explain that for everyone. But the other volumes are also higher than normal, and it's simply because of some of the decisions that were made. So one of the decisions that was made by Loyola was to use a balcony. And by utilizing a balcony, we're able to keep the theater into the footprint that we have on site. We're also able to give a very intimate feel for the space. So about 1/3 of the people who are inside the theater are sitting in the balcony, and about 2/3 of the people who are in the theater are sitting in the main space. This gives you a sense of those height relationships. We have acoustical baffles, a lot of mechanical and structural. There's trusses that's spanning across the theater house to get to the precast walls, which are actually we're utilizing for structure as well as acoustics. Next slide. So I mentioned precast before. It is one of our prevailing materials on the exterior of the building. And so this slide here shows a range of materials that we had originally looked at in terms of our selection process. So we looked at brick, we looked at limestone, and we narrowed in on precast because we can use precast not only for structure and acoustic purposes, but also precast is getting to the point where we can it starts to look towards limestone, and we did studies, and we think that we can really make the precast blend with the existing campus. And so this shows a number of samples that we've gone through in terms of trying to get the right blend of, let's call it contextualism, but also a very vibrant building. We don't want a brown building. We want a happy building that blends with the campus and kind of takes it one step further. So maybe the next slide shows a process that we went through within our office to hone in on this, and this is kind of where we've landed at this point. So what we're recommending is a precast that has a very small amount of tint to it to match the limestone of the new natatorium building, which is the brightest limestone on the campus. And here you can see that we are using or recommending an exposed aggregate with a very soft sandblasted finish. And what it does is it makes it look not flat. It helps give a little bit of depth to the surface. And in these pictures, we were really trying to evaluate the difference between the precast next to the limestone that's on campus and next to the brick that's on campus. And so we've landed on, our recommendation is to go with the precast material that's on the top of each of these images, the lighter one. Here you can see a range of the material samples that we have on the project. We are looking at, along with precast for the exterior enclosure and structure, we're also looking at poured-in-place polished concrete floors. We're utilizing a manufactured limestone, which is the tactile concept block that you see here. This is a rain screen material that we're using on the west and the south portions of the building, and then part of the east side. Then additional materials on the interior. And then the last material that you see is called fritted glass. We do have a large extent of glass on the west and the south sides of the building. This is really for connection from the campus and from Illinois Avenue to kind of view inside the building, to open the building up. It's fritted glass. It's actually also bird glass. So we're working with our specification process to make sure that We utilize the characteristics specific for bird glass so that we don't have casualties. Next slide. This is pretty much a repeat of the previous slide that shows all of the materials that we have on the exterior of the building. And the south elevation is really a place where all of those materials come to play. So the south elevation is right on the quad. We have the precast wall panels that are partial structure for the stage house, full structure for the theater house, and then the tactile panels that kind of ring around that on the south face of the lobby. We also have precast again on the bottom band on the south wall, right adjacent to the quad. We really wanted to reintroduce that material again so that it felt harmonious with the rest of the building and wasn't just two kind of separate things or three separate things. And then you can see on the south wall the double height glass and then the single height band that kind of proceeds past those precast panels. This is an enlarged elevation on the west corner of that south elevation, and we have a number of plane trees that are going to be installed, and Cohen Landscape Partners will explain that in a little bit more detail, but the landscape strategy is really part of the performance of the building. We're very much trying to achieve to the greatest extent possible our commitment to the 2030 commitment, which commits to reducing energy use by 2030. And so the landscape becomes an integral part of that story. It helps shade the building in the summer and helps open the building up in the winter. And you can see how that delicate relationship with the materials on the building and the glass facade are kind of coexisting in the same place to create a lobby experience that will be very comfortable. This is a section basically cut through the double height glazing system. So on the west elevation, there's a significant portion of that elevation which is double height. As I said before, this is really to open it up to allow people to visually enter the building. This is also the backdrop for the exterior stage that I talked about earlier, which is really the key to that Jesuit experience and the way that we're connecting this building to the quad and the rest of the campus. So we're just now entering into construction documents. We are in the process of developing what this system really is. But right now, how it's developing is that it's a very thin, aluminum thin mullion system, which is butt glazed on the exterior. It's an undulating facade, which creates softness on the facade and creates some visual interest in terms of its reflectivity quality, which will hopefully not be overwhelming, but also just a super minimal presence to, the goal is to overshade that space to allow you to visually enter inside. We've got the south elevation and the north elevation on this sheet. The two red arrows basically show that. I've already walked you through the south elevation. The north elevation is probably the next most important elevation, which is the elevation off of Illinois Road. Because this is a very overwhelming elevation for the building, it is the building that essentially is not opening itself up to the campus. It is trying to do something else, which is break down its scale to the neighbors and create an acoustic block for the building and for the rest of the campus. So this elevation is really taking the hit from I-94 from an acoustical standpoint. And what we've done in terms of the materiality, because the precast at this point, given the things that I've mentioned before as a given, is we've tried to take the 4 volumes that we have and really break them down in composition so that we have a volume that represents the back of house. We have a volume that represents the fly tower, one that represents the theater house, and one that represents the front of house or the lobby. And that's where everything starts to open up. There's a glass kind of peekaboo window there. That's where the rain screen system starts. That's where we open up and carve out of that entryway to allow people to enter and to allow that stage performance to happen. But at this facade, what we've done is we've developed a detail where the precast panel has an expressed corner. It's 24 inches deeper to allow for a recessed panel. And what that recessed panel does is it really allows us to break up each of these individual volumes of the building, get some shade in there, and help express it as smaller volumes that are put together. We're also, just mention this really quickly, Cohen might touch on it a little bit more later, but we're keeping all of the trees in the right-of-way intact. We're not demolishing any of those trees or removing any of them. We really feel like it's an important soft buffer between Illinois Avenue and the building to keep that in place. And then lastly, these east elevations. I talked about the west elevation already, but the east elevation is really, again, it's basically facing the expressway. We are adding landscape there because our chiller plant is back there. The chiller plant will be fully enclosed with a fence, and that will perform acoustically as well. But to give some softening to this part of the campus, we are suggesting adding trees to that side of the elevation. And the goal is to essentially extend the face of the existing east wing over and bring your eye around, allow for traffic. These are floor plans of the theater. You can see the let's maybe, for the purposes of this plan, to go through how the building works. We'll start on the left side and work toward the right side. So you'll enter into a glass vestibule. And when you enter into the lobby, there's a choice to go up a set of stairs on the north side of the building, which will take you directly up to the balcony level, or to enter directly into the two openings on either side of the theater house. There's also an access up to the mezzanine level, which is where the control room is for the theater. That's really a kind of a back of house entry, so we're trying to integrate that from a volume standpoint. But there's also an elevator, so handicap accessibility has been very important. Universal accessibility is one of the reasons why we have our building elevated 2 feet to allow for an even ramping system up and through the building. We even carry that into our connection with the east wing. And then along the south side of the project, as you pass through the lobby, is an art gallery. So this is one of the critical program elements that Loyola wanted to keep in play. This is a fine arts building. It's for the entire fine arts faculty and all of the students to really amplify that program. So we're allowing for quite a bit of area on that south wall to provide ample art space, gallery space for them to showcase their art. And then in the back, what we call this kind of knuckle that connects the back entry of the quad to the east wing is a student lounge. So this is their space. And then all of the back of house stuff happens in the rest of the building. This is the balcony level plan. So you can see the balcony is really not overly sized. It's really meant to account for the number of people that would either be on the balcony level or within the balcony inside the theater house. The only other program that you see up on this level is the mechanical pit. So I just want to point that out. We have 3 air handling units up within this space, and they're basically bound by walls that are higher than the units themselves. And this is kind of the critical method, I guess, in terms of making sure that the noise that happens within that area stays within that area. This is a rooftop plan that shows those pieces of equipment and also all the roof drains. And that's just really highlighting the area of the mechanical well. These views we put together in concert with Cohen. We went through, as I said before, the trees are very much part of the performance of the building, and so we went through a process with them to identify what that feel was of that front stage space. And I'm going to let Cohen talk about the landscaping as part of this, and this will be a good transition into the landscape portion of the discussion. But from a programmatic standpoint, this stage is very much the heart and soul of the quad. It's very much the connection, heart and soul of the building. From a Jesuit standpoint, it takes the program that's inside the new Performing Arts Center and brings it out to the quad. And this has really been pivotal for us in terms of the development of the project and the concept of the project. And here you can see just an example of how that space might be used on a daily basis. We're hoping it really enlivens the quad and brings all of the different aspects of being in high school and having a Jesuit education and being enveloped within the arts kind of together within this beautiful landscaped space right on the periphery of campus.
You want me to jump in here, Sarah?
Yeah, please, Shane, that would be great.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Shane Cohen from Cohen Partners. I'm a landscape architect and urban planner. And we were involved with Sarah and the entire Crook Sexton team from the very beginning, conceptualizing on this building exactly as Sarah said, serving as this beautiful kind of protector for the campus and formalizing this quad. And a huge focus has been the trees and their dialogue with the building and the neighborhood. So here on the far right, you see a London plane tree, and there's a line of those that we'll talk about, and those are both protecting the sun and the glare from the building, as well as providing shade for the students. On the left, in the foreground, is a line of service berries, and then the parking lot is screened by a beech hedge, and I'll get into all of these with you. And then in front of that is a row of honey locusts. And then in the distance, you see all the existing plant material that was saved along Illinois to provide really this kind of healthy, vibrant, colorful buffer to the neighborhood as well. And this stage that is up on a plinth here also has universal accessibility from the north. So you also slip up if you're any able person can access this very, very easily. This is a view from the other side. So if you're approaching from Illinois, and we'll get into lighting standards a little bit, but we've kept with all the lighting standards except for these 3 column lights here, which are part of the gateway experience. But you'll also see here this kind of line of honey locusts that are out from the building here, and you sit under those. And then the hedge that I mentioned of beech right in back of them. And so this bench is meant to be something that's utilized at all times of day, but also during a performance. If you do have kind of an interactive performance up on the stairs and the stage, you get this kind of back and forth of community, really, and bringing people together. And then as you back up here, we inventoried all the trees and shrubs along Illinois Avenue, and basically, made the decision to just save everything that was healthy out there, and really let that kind of diversity that has always been on that street be a part of kind of the undulation that the building has here too. So you see from this distance really what the neighbors will see, what you see driving down Illinois is this more undulating form, and then when you move through it, the trees formalize a little bit more in relation to the building.
And just one other thing to point out, Abigail, while we're on the slide is, I think this shows the scale directly from Illinois that we would be kind of experiencing with this, large building here, and how we've tried to break it down, but also at the corner that we've really tried to dematerialize so that you can kind of penetrate that glass and almost see through it into the quad space.
So I'll walk you through a little bit more of the site planning principles and the actual plant material. And I think Sarah already did a really great job explaining this building as formalizing the edge of the quad and really a protected zone for the students. But it's also buffering noise from the quad out into the neighborhood, which is another really strong component of the siting of this building here. The circulation around the building, there's a pedestrian circulation around that was sized for safety, and then really the amount of trees that we put back in were 28 new trees that we're planting, and we'll get into the removal and planting plan here in a moment. Go ahead and go to the next one. This is the tree removal plan. We are removing 15 trees to construct this building properly in this place, and we're putting back 28 trees. And the key has been to really embrace the diversity that's called out in all of the vision plans for this part, for the landscape. So we have great diversity, which I'll go through, and we've also really increased the size of the tree that was required. So we're putting in big trees. We're not putting in little trees. This is the surfacing plan, which shows we're actually, the precast that Sarah showed you on our cast-in-place concrete, we're putting an aggregate in and acid etching the surface to get a material match with the precast. And then there's also a small amount of pavers at the front door. And then this also shows in some areas we're using a loose aggregate for permeability. And I should have mentioned that we've collaborated closely with the civil on permeability and stormwater, of course, throughout this whole process. So we'll just get through the diversity here. Again, the key to us after reading your plans really was, and vision was, diversity and also strength and maintenance. So we have a really beautiful concert of trees here. We have service berries, and I'll show you where those are on the plan, but they're really on the quad side. They turn a brilliant red in the fall. They're also something that birds love, and so it's a fun thing for the students as well, connecting them to nature, which I think is something we're all more and more aware of during these times. Honey locust is a light shade tree that we have directly adjacent to the building to filter the sun, but it's a tree that's really comfortable to sit under too. It's not so dense. It lets in really nice shadow, and it turns, in contrast to the serviceberry, a beautiful yellow in the autumn. And then we have a clump of white spider birch out near the parking, and again, this is a yellow in the autumn, but it's also known for its winter interest. It has beautiful white bark that will be real showy as a kind of gateway piece as you pull it in the wintertime. Ironwood is used, as well as some shrubs to screen the service area in the back. And then London plane tree was selected for its kind of bulletproof nature as the shade tree in the actual commons itself. So there's a row of those within the commons, and it's beautiful. Its bark is also really pretty in the fall as well. So we'll just walk through those. Here's the front entry, just to ground everybody. The stairs are on just adjacent to the building here. So the front stairs, we are looking at that elevation, and we're using a beech hedge to screen the parking. And we went through quite a few studies here and ended up with the beech. It's super hardy, but what we love about it is it actually changes with the season. So it turns a fall color, but it's dense enough still in the winter where it retains its leaves, and you can see through it, but yet it still provides a screen, and then it's just this beautiful green in the summertime. Right in front of that is the row of honey locust that I mentioned, and again, this is this super light shade tree. This is where we have those communal benches that are meant to be about community and bringing people together and kind of a dialogue with the stage, and those turn a beautiful yellow, and the leaves are very feathery in all seasons. And then the birch is this kind of line of birch protecting the parking, screening the parking from Illinois Street, and providing another layer of planting as you look from Illinois in towards the building. And then this line is the service berries, and service berries is the first tree, one of the first trees, red bud service berry to bloom in the spring. So it makes you feel like spring is here. We all know how hard it is to get through winters where we live. So it's a welcome sight when the service berry bloom, and then it's a gorgeous red when the students come back in the fall. And then the London plane tree, it's got year-round interest, big leaves. It's just a classic tree. Everybody knows this tree from the great parks in the Chicago area, both for its fall color and its bark. And then the ironwood on the backside for screening of the surface area. Which you see, this is a view from that where we have kind of layers of shrubs and perennials and the ironwoods. Site lighting is really, the campus has a standard, and we went with that standard. So we have the parking lot area lights, the same ones. We have some bollards, and then we have these 3 light columns that we introduced at the gateway to be a little more ceremonial. This is just the schedule. This is a picture of the standard, the campus standard lights, both the parking lot and the bollard. And this is the column light. Really, it's designed to just kind of be invisible. You just kind of, it puts down great light, but it doesn't make too big of a deal out of itself. And then we closely studied the photometrics, which is really all about safety and even light throughout the whole campus. And we've achieved a really nice, even photometric plan, which you can see on the next page, which is here, is kind of looking down at the building. If you're up above, of course, the building is dark, but when you're at an angle, there's great ambient light that comes out of the building depending upon what side you're on. And we have just a nice, even, well lit, but not too bright from a neighborhood standpoint. That's the goal of the lighting plan. Thank you. Letting us speak.
Is that the conclusion?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, again, thank you everybody for your time. You know, the ZBA did recommended the special use permit when we met with them on July 15th. It was a very good meeting, and hopefully tonight, hopefully you got the detail you needed for phase 2. And if there's anything I would say in conclusion is, you know, Scott Ferris of Lakota has said it. He's been such a partner for us in this, that probably some of the biggest gains we had through phase 1 was the collaboration with the neighbors. But even afterwards, what we did is, I think the neighbors were skeptical about the size of a new swimming pool and what it would bring. But I think when you take them through, we didn't cut any corners, and we're not going to cut any corners. And this is an important project for us. So I think we've set a standard for ourselves that we're confident will make not only Laurel proud, but also our near neighbors in the village of Wilmette. So I think at that point, I open it up for questions for everybody.
Well, I'll start by saying thank you to the design team and to Dennis for a well-conceived presentation. Thank you. We have the materials in our hands, but it was nice to see on the screen. And given, typically if we were all together up in Village Hall, we'd be peppering you with questions from left, right, and center. But what I think we'll do is do it a little bit orderly, and I think we'll go in reverse order from the prior roster that we went through on the first case. So Jeff, I'll ask you first if you have any queries or questions of the applicant.
Yeah, to echo what Charles mentioned on the completeness of the package that you guys put forward together and the project. I think it's a good move and a better master planning move than working together, that you guys really pushed it out on that end. Some of the questions that I have, aesthetically, I'm fine with it. I like modern architecture more than others may. But questions with the neighbors and really with the lighting and the photometrics along the street with the neighbors with the large poles there. And I was trying to look, there is the photometric lighting schedule, but just along that front parking, I could see that as a sticking point for neighbors, and I'm sure you guys are thinking about it, but that's really would be my concern. I mean, everything else is really inward focused of what you're doing, and it's the standards of the precedence of the lighting that's already there, but I would just check the fallout on that photometric a little bit more along that sight line.
Can I just respond, just to say that obviously the lighting is an important piece of it, but I think maybe even more, again, I'm going to keep going to this collaboration piece, is last time with phase one, we coordinated with our neighbors for the lighting schedule. They were aware of the lighting schedule. We were aware of the lighting schedule. If the lighting schedule was ever off, we depended on our neighbors to tell us. They would say, hey, you know, last night it was on all night by accident, you know, and our power must have gone. So they'll be completely aware and actually a part of well, you know, the final hours that get put on the schedule for this. So I'm confident that we'll make that work, but again, you know, Sarah may be able to add more to that.
Yeah, I just think that, thank you, Dennis. I mean, we definitely are cognizant of the neighbors. We don't want to create, you know, undue light and light pollution at all. So that's why we're trying to find that, use the existing light fixtures for consistency, but keep the levels down as low as possible. For me, the diagram that Shane showed with the light kind of on the plan is really helpful, because I think it shows the extent to which we're locating fixtures so that the light remains on the property and doesn't spill out and pollute into the adjacent, you know, areaways. So we're doing what we can, absolutely, and we'll keep it to a minimum.
And we've had no complaints after phase one on lighting.
Okay, good. Yeah,
you're not gonna kick something onto the fly tower just for, you have a beacon on that side as well for a little identity, light up one of the volumes just for
our Batman light, right? Our Batman light up there.
Absolutely.
There are no plans for that right now. No.
That's all I got, Charles.
Thank you, Jeff. Richard.
Yes.
You have the floor, sir.
Oh, okay. Very professional design planning presentation. I spent a few hours with it yesterday, and looking at it again was very helpful just now. You know, everything looks good, and the way you presented it with the neighbors and their comments and their letters, I trust that reflects the neighbors at large. It looks like a good solution all the way around. I don't have any questions.
Thank you, Richard. Nada.
I just would like to remind all of you, when we were talking about the last project that we dealt with Loyola, and what a pleasure it is to see the execution of that building in addition to the town. In general, I would like to say that you know, watching the transformation of the Loyola campus, which is, you know, this elongated, long, difficult kind of a strip of land that they were trying to animate and use properly, I think received its exclamation point. And I commend, you know, to assessment and moving of the location actually, and creating sort of subdividing this long strip into a sport park and a cultural sort of park. So I would like to say that there is a new center of gravity that is experienced right at the arrival there at the Illinois Center. And I really am very pleased to see all of this happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nada. Doug.
Oh, yes. I think this is outstanding. The situation we've been in recently with the arts and theater and from Broadway to Los Angeles being under fire, this is an outstanding contribution to the community. It couldn't be nicer. I think the outdoor stage is fantastic. What could be better? I think the design is beautiful in all respects. I have a few questions. My concern, as I think a lot of people's concern, concerns are about the north elevation and the neighbors. And if you can, I know we talked about this, if you can refresh me a little bit on that. One question I had, and it may have been on the east elevation, was you were thinking about a big Loyola emblem and sign. Is that still a part of the design?
We're currently not planning for that, so no, we're currently not planning for that.
I know it was something under discussion. And the other thing, I think breaking up the north elevation is a great way to handle the effect on the neighbors. On the lighting at night, are the sections light? Is there lighting between the sections, sections at night?
There isn't lighting there right now. I think that would be a beautiful idea for sure. We've been really trying to keep the lighting to a minimum based on our discussions with neighbors. You know, they really want this building to go away. So we're trying to minimize it and be really respectful. So we haven't really gone there. We know that we need exterior lighting for safety purposes, and we've really kept it to that.
It just, as I think about that huge wall, and if I lived there, I think it's nice that the lower end of the building is approximately where the houses end. I think in the dark, that could be fairly looming. And one way is, in the very most subtle way, is to have some lights in those where it splits, and it'll give it some depth and make visually there'll be something out there instead of something just hulking over you. So I would suggest that, and I don't know where you are in this process, that the neighbors may want some subtle lighting, and you may want some subtle lighting to give that some depth and open it up. That was my only comment about it.
No, I think it's a really insightful suggestion. So thank you, and we'll take a look at that.
Yeah, I think it'll take away from the just the parking lot lighting, right? It'll bring another level of beauty to the neighborhood.
Oh, and one question which I always ask, it drives my fellow commissioners nuts probably, is what are the lighting temperatures of the bulbs? Are you're keeping that down?
Yeah,
Kelvin?
And I don't know, I should have introduced Ethan McKnight, who's on this call, but we are at the lowest level for kind of safety. And we're, of course, staying consistent with the parking lots that are surrounding the campus, but on the low side of it, just recognizing that this side of the campus is the adjacent to a little closer to the residential, really. Yeah.
Well, in addition to the brightness, I was wondering about the temperature. Is it going to be daylight? Where are we on that?
Right. Ethan, do you have that handy?
I don't have it in front of me.
When I asked the question of the applicant, they said it was going to be 3,000 K.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, I believe we're at.
Oh, okay, that's good. It's just when it's up at 5 or something, it starts to be a little startling.
It's like blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Devin, I need to apologize because did I ask for your comments on the first?
That's okay. I would have interrupted if I had anything.
I'm sorry. I'm going through it. I don't see your photo on my screen, and I feel bad. So I want to give you the big opportunity here.
No worries. I actually don't have very many questions. I agree with everyone else's statement. It's a great presentation. It's put together really well. The one question, and this might have been addressed, I know you said you had done an inventory of all the existing trees on the north side of the building. The renderings that we have, or the elevation views, are those all accurate sizes or of the trees currently, or is that like a mature, or is that what the trees will be once they mature in height? What's shown on that north elevation that we're looking at?
The north, I just want to clarify something. The north elevation is showing all existing trees that are in the right of way. We're not adding to that area.
Right.
But are they're modeled at the height that they currently are right now?
We took them. We looked at Google Earth when we were preparing that image, and we approximated it.
Got it. Okay, great. And then, so there on the north side of the building between that parkway, so from the parking lot to it looks like a fairly small walkway between the building and the parking lot, is there any sort of vegetation at all, or is that all just concrete?
Actually, with the parking requirements, it was a bit of a magic trick to get them all to work. We cited it in a way where we could maintain a sidewalk with safety, that it's elevated, and then all the planting occurs within the right-of-way. So there wasn't any room without losing another bay of parking, which we couldn't do.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all my questions.
Okay, thank you. And I think is that all of our commission members that we've given an opportunity to speak or ask questions? And far be it from me to let an opportunity go by without having a few questions myself. So a few queries. We are not, Lucas, if I'm understanding correctly, granting a certificate based on a height variation here, correct?
Sorry, the height variation was reviewed by the Zoning Board of Appeals, so that variation, the height variation was reviewed, and a recommendation of approval was sent to the village board, and the village board will not be reviewing that, I believe, until later this month. I believe it's the 28th?
25th.
25th. So, but the Appearance Review Commission does not need to comment on the height variation, since that was something reviewed separately by the zoning board.
Okay, I do want to ask though, to the design team and to Dennis, what is the highest point of other edifices on the campus? Are there other at 60? Are they at 70? Are they at 40? I don't remember off the top of my head.
Dennis, I don't know if you know how tall the natatorium is.
I want to say the natatorium is between 35 and 45. But again, I'm not an architect. I would have to get you that information.
Dennis, this is Abigail Rose from the Lakota Group. That range is correct. I remember it saying it was around 40 something, but I think it was under 45.
Okay, so the tower is almost twice as tall as anything else on campus, which is, you know, I do think that's something, and it sounds like the neighbors have embraced that, or at least all of the information that we've seen. Obviously the supporting documents, but I trust that is really clear to everybody, that that's going to be the scale. Another quick question, and I suspect you know, it may have been a budget decision to go to precast versus limestone, because the balance of the campus is brick and limestone. It could, and Sarah, maybe could you go back to the drawing, and I wasn't 100% clear where the tactile is versus the precast, and how does that relationship work?
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we can point on the roof plan, Abigail. Okay, oops. So let's see here. Let's start at the lower right corner of the building. So right next to the east wing. The first, you kind of can see three bands. This lower band, Abigail, if you move your cursor up just a little bit to the bottom of the mechanical wall, yeah. That's the start of the tactile system on the east side. So if you follow that all the way down to the bottom of the building, over to the southwest corner, all the way over to the southwest corner, and then up to the northwest corner, that's the extent of the rain screen system. And the reason for this is that the north stair, the theater house, they're both structured with the precast. The precast is literally the load-bearing walls for those structures. The fly tower, the precast is bearing its own weight, and then it's connected to a steel frame because of the height. Right now, we haven't been able to get the precast to be load-bearing, but we're looking at options for that. And then on the north wall of the scene shop, that's also precast for the purpose of acoustical reasons. So it's basically, I would say, a little bit more than 50% of the plan perimeter is the tactile surface, and slightly less than of the plan perimeter is precast.
Okay. And in terms of the building weathering, the weathering of the two materials, you've got a comfort level of how that will happen, because you're right next to the expressway, which has, until we all buy into much less, combustion engines, is going to have a significant amount of carbon coming out. So I just wanted to.
Yeah, no,
good.
Yeah, you bring up an excellent point. I mean, I think any material that we're going to put on the east and the north sides of this building they're going to have a different set of elements to deal with than the west and the south facade. No question. They just have a whole different set of parameters that they're going to have to deal with. We've been working with Valenti Builders, who's a partner with Loyola and a partner to us on this project. We've been talking through the pros and cons of using sealers on the precast. The tactile comes with a sealer by nature, and so we're just starting to get into that development as we're in construction drawings right now.
Yeah, I just think it's going in with eyes wide open and understanding the maintenance for that material is going to be important for the client to understand.
Yep, and there's maintenance with a sealer and there's maintenance without a sealer, so it's kind of just trying to identify what that reality is. Right.
And could we go to the plan view showing maybe the site plan of showing the loading dock area, please? Okay, so looking at this, it appears that the surface entrance is in the northeast corner. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that is, it's basically an entrance into the scene shop.
Right. And what is the size, the largest vehicle size that is good to be accommodated there?
Just a standard size box truck.
So there's no tractor trailer expectations with scenery and materials and that type of thing?
No, we're mostly planning right now for delivery of materials and broken down sets if they need to be moved off site.
Okay, and it's obvious why I'm asking, because it's quite a short for a truck, plus you have cars parked there, which will make it even more difficult to maneuver.
Yes. Yeah.
So I half of me wants to say you're going to have to lose all of those spaces from Illinois down to that location to maneuver for the trucks to keep those cars from getting, it's easy for us to plan it out and do it's a different in reality when the truck drivers go to and from. So I suspect you don't have that luxury, but that would be the ideal situation.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that there's always some procedural things that the client is going to have to, coordinate. So deliveries happening after the bulk of the students, are no longer parking in those spaces will be something to coordinate.
Yeah, functionally, I see that as maybe the biggest challenge on the project is the servicing of the building, just based on that little tight corner there. But and one other maybe functional thing I'll ask. If we could go to the rendering of the front lobby space, please. Right there. Thank you. That's perfect. So the question I have is everyone bought into the fact that there is the glass wall comes down to grade such that any small snowplow or anything along that surface is going to come in contact with the glass coming down to the grade? And the reason I'm asking is, I'm working on two major university buildings right now. We have a very some similar conditions, and there was a very loud voice from the client, part of the client, that said no glass down to grade. So I just want to make sure that's been understood and thought through with Loyola.
Well, I'll just mention one thing, and I'll of course let Dennis talk, and maybe even Shane if he'd like to, but we're not planning to have like snow equipment up on the stage. This would be shoveled by hand. There's a ramp that allows accessibility for the stage, but really what we're planning for is pathways at level of grade that will allow for snow plows and whatnot, maintenance equipment that would be used by Loyola's maintenance personnel. And we do believe that there will be some amount of snow that will, be on the stage, but we don't think it's going to be significant. There is a significant overhang at that location, and there's also trees. Those London plane trees will also help, prevent a little bit, but blown snow will come up onto the stage, and it will have to be shoveled.
Okay, as long as that process is understood, I just know it's going to get, it's a tough climate. You go out 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and the salt and everything, it's a tough climate. So, and Shane, are there mow strips around the balance of the building, or is sod grass coming up to the face of the building?
For the majority of it, there's a mow strip, but here, Ethan, correct me if I'm wrong, here we're allowing people to kind of sit right on the quad, and so it doesn't wrap around this one side here. Is that correct, Ethan?
Yeah, the turf never reaches the building itself. There's always a sidewalk.
Okay.
It's a flat sidewalk condition. It doesn't go right up to the vertical. So in a sense, it is a mow strip. It's just not like an aggregate.
It's just a sidewalk. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Even on the north side of the building.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. All right. Beautiful job. I just thought those were early phase queries and questions. So I will ask if there are any public members in our audience who might like to ask questions or make comments regarding this project.
Charles, this is Lucas Sievertson. Seeing as how no one has spoken, there's no comments through Teams chat, and if I can ask Lisa Roberts to get on and see if there's any comments from YouTube chat.
Hi Lucas, it's Lisa here. No comments on email or YouTube.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Having no comments from the public, last call for comments from the Parents Review Commission.
I have a quick question. Any consideration given to signage?
I'll jump in on this one. We have not considered signage yet. And that is, in fact, we talked about this in the ZBA a little bit. They were concerned that we might have some large signage, but I think if you look at our signage that was put on the east, it's now on the southeast corner of the building, on the rear of the pool of the new natatorium. Less is more for us. We do not have any big plan for signage, so I do not think And obviously, everything has to go through village ordinance and so on and so forth. So, but as of right now, that Loyola Academy sign on the left, or on the no southeast corner of the building, that'll be our school signage as of now.
Lucas? Lucas, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay. It seems to be, if I can believe maps and diagrams, there's a string of single-family homes immediately north of the north side of the Art Center.
Yes.
And fairly close to it. Have you had comments at all from any of the neighbors there? Have you polled them, or have they reacted in any way, positively or negatively?
Sorry.
I don't. I didn't receive any comments directly from the Appearance Review Commission notice that was sent out, because there were two notices sent out, one for the Appearance Review Commission and one for the Zoning Board of Appeals. It's possible that some of the comments were directed to the Zoning Board of Appeals, but I have not received any comments from those residents directly. But any comments would have been shared with the zoning board as part of their packet, which will then go along to the Village Board of Appeals.
We also, Dennis has been reaching out to the neighbors, and we have been responding to them in terms of additional conversations and presentations to them. So two of the things that came out of some conversations with them was questioning daylight analysis and sun and shadow studies, and then also just, the visible appearance of the fly tower, just in terms of its massing. And so we put together a number of sketches and presented it to them, and presented it during the zoning board application and review process. And we had included those, I believe, in the presentation book that you received. If not, we have it as additional information that we can send you. But we've been trying to really react to especially neighbor comments to make sure that they're comfortable and that they have the facts in their hands.
Thank you.
Hey, just one last thing, Charles, then I'll stop, I promise. This is Jeff. And it was when you were flipping through the renderings, I noticed it. In the tactile panels, there's one color called out, but then it's sort of like a variegated pattern on the renderings. Is it monolithic one color, or is it the piano key multiple color? It's a single color. We're trying to make it match the precast, so we're currently in a sampling process on that. So it's the document that you have as the printed book may not show the updated version of the tactile. If it's showing two versions, it should just show a single version with a small aggregate. And that was what we presented here today, so I apologize if there was an old image. Yeah, this image shows the manufactured limestone rain screen is the tactile surface. Yep. Okay, but there's no differentiation. It's one color tactile, the whole thing. Yeah, there will be. We've been talking with tactile, and in fact, Mary Jane Ma, who was one of our architects on our staff, went to Tactile's shop in Pittsburgh and met with them and did some preliminary sampling review. There is going to be some variety just by the nature of the bespoke kind of fabrication process. There will be some subtle variety, which we like, but it's basically all the same die-lot. It just has, based on how concrete cures, and each panel might be, a slight difference, there could be some modulation. And you're not going to cheap out and go with the exposed fasteners, correct? No, we are planning for exposed fasteners.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yes, and we've done studies on this visually. We were pushing hard for no exposed fasteners, but as it turns out, we can't fight for it because the cost of doing it is crazy to do hidden fasteners.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, I'm pretty picky, and it didn't bother me. They look quite integrated.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we're at a point now where I'll ask if there's a motion, if all of our comment has been completed. Commissioners?
Yeah, I'll motion to approve the AR 04 for Loyola Academy project.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Devin. Lucas, if you could please call the roll.
Yes. Nada Hendrick?
Yes.
Richard Brill?
Yes.
Devin Castellano?
Yes.
Doug Johnson?
Yes.
Jeffrey Saad?
Yes.
And Charles Smith?
Yes.
Right, the motion passes, and this, because it's a parent's review certificate and not a variation, this does not necessarily go to the village board. However, the project as a whole will go to the village board as part of the zoning board's recommendation.
And will our minutes and comments, Lucas, go to the village board?
They would not typically. However, if you would like me to prepare the minutes and then have them approved, I can include them in the...
I'd like to ask that, please. Thank you.
Okay. Could I just get a motion then for the chairman to authorize approval of the minutes?
So moved.
A second.
Okay, thanks, Richard. Nada Hendrick?
Yes.
Richard Brill?
Yes.
David Castellano?
Yes.
Doug Johnson?
Yes.
Jeffrey Saad?
Yes.
And Charles Smith?
Yes.
Okay, great. We'll get that sent to the village board.
Okay, thank you, Loyola. Thank you, Cricket Sexton. Thank you, Cohen, very much.
Thanks for your time, okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks.
So I would like to introduce, or have Lucas introduce our next case, AR 09, please.
Sure. Next case, 2020 AR09 for 1010 Central Avenue. BK Wilmette Lodge is the applicant, requesting an appearance review certificate to remodel the exterior of the existing building, including replacing and adding windows, repairing brick and stone, installing balconies and exterior stairs, replacing paving, adding lighting and landscaping to accommodate multifamily residential apartment building. And I believe the applicants are present. Steve, if you would like to introduce yourself and the team.
Yeah, this is Steve Blonsky. I'm with BK Lodge Wilmette. Chris Palsma, our architect, is on the call as well. Basically, the plan here is we purchased the Masonic Lodge at 1010 Central and plan to convert it to 16 rental apartments.
Yeah, that's the short version of it.
Well, thank you, Steve. And we know you were before us previously. I think it would be good for the commission for you to review it. A little bit more an overview. We have one of our commission members who is not at that meeting, and I know you have made changes on the exterior, or at least the documents that I have indicate that. It would be very helpful and important to walk through that, please.
Yeah, so kind of on the recommendation of the committee, our initial plan called for wrapping basically the entire, I don't know, not the entire, the rear, I don't know, 2/3 of the building with call it balcony walkways to a second means of egress, and have balconies up there. Kind of got the feeling there wasn't what the committee was looking for, so we went back and redesigned our balconies with exit stairs on the east and west side of the property to really minimize that impact on the exterior of the building. In addition to that, we will be replacing all of the windows in the front. We're going to be making some larger openings on the east, north, and west sides to accommodate the new layouts. Besides that, our intention is really to try and keep this building looking as it has, kind of an homage to the the historic quality of the building, but at the same time modernize it into its next iteration as a multi-family apartment building.
Chris, perhaps you could walk us through the exterior design concepts and changes that you worked on.
Yeah, does anybody, do you guys want to give me the screen? Is that, how does this get managed? Lucas, are you in charge of who gets the whole picture, or? I can broadcast my screen and share you the drawings as I speak, or do you guys just want me to go ahead and talk?
Well, ideally, we could see this as just like in the last group. It was helpful to have them on the screen as you spoke. I think we all have them in our hand, but that doesn't work.
Well, I'm happy to, give it a whirl.
Lucas,
you guys able to?
Sorry. Okay. Chris, I just added you as a presenter.
Okay. Are you able to see my screen or no?
If you mouse down, it'll be there at the lower part.
I'm actually doing this on an iPad. I have better connectivity to these meetings with that. So according to mine, I'm broadcasting to Teams. Is that right or no?
No, not yet. Chris, maybe let me share my screen and then I can sort of demonstrate.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. So if you scroll to the middle of the lower portion of the screen, you see more actions. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you click on that.
Share.
Sorry.
Share screen.
It should be that little third one from the left.
Yeah. Sorry, it's right here. So I'm gonna. Oh. Okay.
Not working yet?
Yep.
You're up.
Oh, I was? Yeah?
You're up.
Great. Okay, well, yeah, so, the biggest component that anybody is going to be looking at when we talk about this project is going to be these balconies, right? Otherwise the building is exactly as it is, with the exception of some openings. So based on, we went back and we considered how many other ways can we do these balconies, and came up with, a dozen different concepts. But Steve and Eamon and myself and the rest of our team kind of decided we liked this one best for a few reasons. But we reduced the balconies. We peeled them off the rear. They used to wrap all the way around the north side of the building, and now we're just providing them, as balconies and stairs. One of the things that I can remember saying when we were presenting last time was trying to make those balconies big enough that, users can, have a grill and some furniture out there. And as soon as those words escaped my lips, I wished I could pull them back in, but there was no putting it back, because I could see some people wondering, how's that going to look? And part of the conversation then, brought us to this place where we thought we would put a solid panel around these balconies. So what we're anticipating is something that's kind of bold and sculptural, and then also allows folks to, put furniture and grills and stuff out there without altering the appearance of the building. So it got a little bit more efficient. We've rendered these with black windows, and I know that's not the original window color. Originally they were some sort of a taupey color. We went out there and peeled a little paint off the frames to confirm that, but we're all fans of black frames on our side. So this is the concept, the new concept for the balconies, and we're kind of fans of it. Now, I know that there's been some discussion about the colors. We lean toward black, but bronze could be an option. And then lastly, we thought, just to keep things interesting, if this is just a plan B, we still prefer the plan A, the one that we're proposing with the 2 stairs on the sides. It's actually a little bit better for egress. However, we didn't really know how this conversation was going to go today, so we thought we'd talk about some options potentially. I think those are the major issues. So unless there's anything that I'm forgetting, I'll pass the mic back to somebody else.
May I ask a question? This is not under. Could you explain the finishes on the stairs and balconies?
We want to use a painted plate steel. So we'll have those plates galvanized to help protect them, but then we'll apply a good exterior grade paint to them, and then the treads and planks are still going to be that precast concrete. I like it for its maintenance. You can, if I remember right, I can't remember who, somebody had some questions about that, but, these things are set up nicely for that, and I think it's the right way to go. No staining, no warping, they hold up well. So 2 materials.
So, thank you, Chris. I guess what we'll do is, if that's the conclusion of the presentation, then maybe what we do is go around the table again and give a platform to the team. We did have a lot of discussion last time, and Jeff, I don't know if you saw the last set of renderings on the prior submission, which was frankly, it wasn't asking us for any action at the last time. It was more in front of us to get an opinion. But in this case, Chris and Steve are coming back clearly with a different approach. Maybe I'll give you the floor again and see if you have any further queries or comments.
Thank you, Richard. I think this is a great improvement, and I am speaking in response to the owner's desire to keep the building as little changed as possible. So the elimination of 50% of armature around it is very helpful. But I have to make it very short, and I'm going to still talk about my discomfort with the change of the window frames color and starting to go into darker hue, and then bringing it also out on the balcony and the new variation of the exiting stair. I would say that this, when I look at this rendering, I don't think that would ever say that it did not disturb the building under no circumstances. I think this is a major, and you have one 3D, another 3D rendering that shows it even better than what we saw. But it looks like a major, as Prince Charles once said, carbuncle on the two sides of the building. I think that your intent to keep the building as authentic as possible is very noble. And if you could consider doing what you have here with reducing the bulk and reducing the density of the enclosure and the stair itself. I was walking by that and spent quite some time looking between that and the Optima building down the street. And they have balconies that are sort of matching the other hues of the building that they designed. I'm wondering if you would keep the color of the original building and then do the railing and everything in those colors and as transparent, as open as possible, so that we are talking here about the two elements. We're talking about the bulk of the building and then the armature and the lace and the, if you want to say, jewelry that you're adding to. I would think that that would be a complementary and to be complemented.
Can I just ask, what are you suggesting, like a beige color balcony or beige color windows?
Yeah, I was thinking that that you can maintain the color that is there now, reproduce it in whatever. I think you're using some Luca bond, right, on some of these elements. But
yes.
But I don't think the Luca bond would be appropriate for what I was hoping for, certain laciness and openness, so that it doesn't burden the building itself, but it becomes sort of like an accessory and, as I say, some sort of a jewelry. So yes, I'm saying do stay away from black. We are all here, and in architecture world, doing black is always, there is never a time when it's not appropriate, but I do truly think this is the time. And that we should
never but this one.
I'm sorry?
Never except now.
Well, I'm saying that if we are going with the sort of your goal, which is to change the building as little as possible, and to show that, do all the necessary functional improvements, but do not interfere with that sort of a softness that building kind of represents itself. I think the black and even bronze would be very aggressive in this, and it would be a definite signature of the time. And it would kind of create a very different language for the building. I think the railing and everything could be as lacy as you showed on one of these drawings, where you have the entire length of the balcony. So I strongly believe in that, and I would appreciate you paying attention and perhaps considering it.
Steve?
So I guess your suggestion is, instead of going with the plate steel balcony, doing kind of that more transparent bar grate Is that kind of what you're referring to?
Yeah, I am talking about being more transparent and more imposing with its volume on the whole side of the building.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Nada. Devin, I'd like to ask for your comments, please.
Sure. Couple of questions. Well, first, the new balconies, it looks like you have, each balcony is shared between 2 units. Is there any sort of divider between those 2 spaces, between the units, or is it open?
The stair is the divider. The balcony on the north is for the north units, the balcony on the south is for the south units.
And I was trying to find a dimension. What is the size of those balconies?
And that's not on the plans, is it?
I couldn't find, it's a little bit light, so it might be my eyes, but
No, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the plans, you're correct. Hang on one second. I bet they're about 15 by 15 square.
Okay. So, I agree a little bit with what, on a few things. I actually don't mind the black on the windows. I do think on the balconies, it does seem a little bit bulky, and I'm not making any specific suggestion as to how to change that. But it seems like, the balcony is fairly large. It could be a combination of scaling back the size. It could be looking at different materials, maybe even using, I don't know if you could, or either a combination of glazing or just something that would break up that mass of those really large balconies and stairs. But yeah, something that's more transparent for sure. And then I guess the one other question I had is where you have new openings, are you going to be mimicking the same stone sill condition as the existing openings? I couldn't tell from the renderings what that new sill would look like.
We will put a stone sill in, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think for any new openings, I would just match, whatever size and material stone sill is existing, just so you have some continuity.
I think that's reasonable.
And then actually one other question. In a few of the window locations, it looks like below the windows, it would be on, it looks like the north elevation. Are you infilling below are those existing large masonry openings that you're infilling with like a metal panel below the windows? Or
yeah, we were using, so part of the driver for that was we've got a number of large openings that exist on the east and west, and we're going to be infilling those now because we're inserting floors like at 2 and 3 at the rear of the building. So we've got these existing openings, and we're going to have to provide some, the Alucobond, Nada, you brought that up before, it's supposed to just kind of be an extension of the window frames themselves. So whatever those the jambs are, the cladding on those is supposed to just blend into that. And so when we've got those large openings, I wasn't going to try to install a brick lintel or a spandrel, so we were just keeping that language going, to kind of stitch it together throughout. I don't know, am I being clear? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I just wanted to just make sure that wasn't like rendering or shadow.
We're talking about the north elevation.
Yeah, and it came from the east and the west, where we've got those at the first floor. There's 2-story openings that we're going to have to break up now because we're putting those floors in. So to kind of keep a similar language across all those openings is why we've got that repeated.
So when you had the previous proposal, those were somewhat hidden by the guardrail, right? Because it wrapped all the way around.
Yes, right. And some of them were sliding doors because there was a balcony there. From the view that kind of bugs me a little bit is just more of that perspective view from the front. Just looking at these, just how far these balconies extend, and I think it's a combination of the size and then the fact that it's black and opaque is just really stands out. I think if there was a way for you to make it more transparent, it might go away a little bit more. And possibly the other thing would be to add more landscape screening, although those are pretty high up, so I don't know if you could really adequately screen it with just landscaping. Well, one of the benefits of this, I do feel, is that, if somebody does put an ugly old Weber grill out there, you're not going to see it.
That's all my questions and comments.
Okay, thank you, Devin. Richard.
Yes. Hi. I have some pretty potent visual comments. Any of the neighbors or any people walking or driving by are going to see a historic Greek, traditional architecture, beige, brick, stone, whatever, on the basic building. And then, as all of my colleagues have mentioned, the space age, giant, black, shiny balconies of huge size coming out from the 2 sides of it. And, it doesn't matter which of the 4 views directions you're looking at, but especially or walking by, it just gone. Of the 3 shown as the black, the front, and the base, the third one is smaller and less obtrusive, and that doesn't trouble me as much as the first 2. They're round and have the base. It's just 2 totally different architectural views being presented in the same building, and I don't think,
if I could,
be looking at these as they walk by or live there.
Do you mind if I respond to that real quick?
Please, yes.
Well, we've done a couple of projects. We've in the city of Chicago where we got some national landmark work done. And in our experience, and I believe if you were to look and see what the landmarks commissions typically like to see, is they prefer it if you make a new intervention that is clearly indistinguishable from the old. So I'm not talking, I've been talking about state and federal landmarks committees. They've written it down and they asked us to make a distinction. They do not want you attempting to try to rip off 100-year-old designs. So I believe in that philosophy, and that's what we're doing here.
But I hear what you're saying, but my comments, it's just 2 jarring architectural styles, one welded onto another, and people are just going to feel that. as they
Yeah,
want.
and I think I'm not arguing with that. I think that's correct, and I think that's what we're seeking to do.
Okay, Charles, Lucas?
Okay, thank you, Richard. David, I'm sorry, Jeff, your opportunity for questions and queries.
Yeah. Just rewind a little bit. I apologize for not being at the last meeting. I did read the notes, and I think I'm up to speed. But the stair is in response of the egress from the 2 units on each side to have 2 means of egress out of the units?
Yes.
Okay. And then the balcony is a extra amenity for those units to add to the people living there and being there, part of it. So that's,
yes.
Fine. And I guess with that, it's a precast cantilever stair with no supports. I mean,
No, there's columns. We located those in a way that the landings for the stairs and everything will align at the right location. So yeah, there is some cantilever going on in the north-south directions, but we've got columns between the balconies and the stairs.
And are those columns precast, or would they be clad in
metal? Those will be steel. Those will be steel.
Okay, so it's a steel frame, and then you're making a stair on that steel frame.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And are you looking at pouring slabs for the balconies as well?
No, it would all be precast material.
Okay.
So all the horizontal walking surfaces, anything that you're standing on is going to be a precast product. The frame and the rails and anything structural will be steel.
Okay. Not a little bit on the carbuncle to add, but I understand with the egress stair needing to be put there, and I even looked at, well, could you rotate it to fit it inside one of those wings? But I'm sure you guys probably done that. But it's the width of the stair for the egress from the unit?
It's all code minimum.
Code minimum, okay.
And it's placed kind of in the perfect spot between 2 units. So, it's the form is really driven by the program.
It just keeps saying nobody.
I mean, with the plan, it's where it's the shared, and then there'd be 2 slider doors of those units out to the balconies, right? Yes. Ideally. It's a tough one. I mean, I think formally it's a big mass attached to it, the building. I'm a little concerned with the exterior stair. If it is means of egress, do you have to heat it or have a snow melt system on it, or can it just be
the same,
left to elements?
It can be left to the elements.
Okay. Usually I've seen the grates where something would fall through, but with it all being solid, I just haven't seen it so open like that. Yeah, Charles, that's all I have right now.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Doug, comments, please.
Yeah, I think this is difficult because it's not one analysis. We've got a couple of moving parts here, and we're trying to treat it as one moving part. I agree, first of all, with the design philosophy behind historical preservation, that it needs to be different, it needs to be separate. So I very much agree with that. I think trying to make it look like it belongs would be odd. I think from a design standpoint and a rendering standpoint, you can be easily led into saying this rendering or this looks just right and is the right kind of impression I want to make. But I guess the concern which you addressed in this, and which I appreciate very much, is that is only the rendering. This is going to be a building where people live. And there are going to be grills, there are going to be chairs, there's going to be, somebody's going to set out their trash till they get it downstairs, or whatever they're going to do. And that is going to affect the actual living view of what it looks like. So there's two things going on. I think black is dramatic. I don't know if there's something less dramatic, but equally setting it apart. From my point of view, I think we've all kind of talked about it as carbuncles or something. I think the growths on the side of the building just appear pretty big. I don't know that I can visualize them. I think Plan B might be the solution to this. I think keeping, and it alternates the, as Nada says, the lacier or open feeling with the completely solid panels, which would preserve kind of the visual look of the building as it exists from day to day. I wouldn't want to see, personally, an open railing like we started with last time, because I think in the end, it makes this building look unattractive to the neighbors. So I guess I'm to the place of I think Plan B maybe takes the kind of big things going out of the building off. I think it meets the egress situation, but I also think we do need to cover up some of the patios that are in use. So maybe that's not the right material. I'm not a materials expert. Charles probably has lots of comments on that, on materials. Maybe there's something that is not as open as open railings or something. I don't mind this because it sets it off from a historical standpoint. But I guess what I most don't want to see is an open railing with patios. And again, we may be kind of working backwards from the solution. The solution is, I observed last time, is one way not to have grills on the patio is to have that against the apartment rules, or not to have the balconies large enough for them. So there's a number of ways to kind of approach this, I think. In any event, I don't know if you have any questions about my questions, but those are kind of my thoughts on it.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, team. This is Charles, and I see that this is a very, very, very good response. Meaning, you heard what we were talking about before and came back with ideas. So that I very much appreciate that. And there's a drawing that really, to me, validates the comments, and that is the drawing of the west elevation of the new scheme. And that elevation doesn't make the new balcony and stair addition appear imposing, because it's a very flat elevation, obviously, with a few shadows on it. The other thing it does is it reveals the detail on the columns and the limestone caps at the second floor level towards the, I guess it would be, if that's west, it would be the north end of the building. You can see the two. So when we have continuous balconies that run across the face of the building, that kind of element of the existing structure gets lost, both in shadow and in virtual coverage. I'm struggling significantly with the Central Street elevation and the two major massing elements of the stairs and balconies coming off the east and west side. It's exasperated by the darkness of the color. In our last in our last dialogue, and it sounds like Chris did go back, and I don't know if he did a historic view or just peeled a few layers of paint, but my instincts are that if that balcony color was two things, it was actually three things. Somehow we've got to get the massing down. A 15 by 15 foot balcony and then a stair that protrudes out beyond that, to me, is very large.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just got, it's 11 by 13. Just, I oversold the size of it, but go on.
Okay. And you know, when you look at the Central Street elevation, you know, I think the comments are reacting in many ways to that elevation because of both the boldness of the metal color and the size of the extensions beyond the east and west facades. And it's a tough one because we have a couple commission members that are talking about the need to not see grills and bikes and whatever is up on the balcony. Yet my instincts are that if that was a railing, as Nada referred to on the Optima building or other buildings around town that had more of a lacy impact or effect, then the massiveness of those balconies would start to dematerialize. And Chris, I guess I'm wondering, did you look at running the stairs north and south versus east and west on those balconies?
I'm sorry. There's a new board member here today. Doug? Was it Doug?
No, Jeff's the new board member. Or he's not new, but he was not at our last meeting.
Yeah, sorry, new to me. Yeah, he I think touched on that. If I were to do that, then they would be running in front of the windows of one of the units, and that seemed less good to me. So it just fits nicely right there.
Yeah. Well, perhaps part of my issue in feeling comfortable with it is that they are solid, they are black or dark bronze, and it's really out of character with the goal of keeping the building as true to itself as possible. And I think you're trying to do two things. You're trying to respect that integrity of the building, yet making some pretty fundamental changes on things like color and solidity that fly in the face of that goal. So I have a little challenge with that situation. And I don't know if I have an answer for you, because running the balconies across the entire east, west, and north side of the building was difficult, and I think it's a great improvement by not having them there.
Well, I can imagine a couple of things that we could consider here, but I don't want to commit to anything without, going back to, have a conversation with Steve. We could certainly explore other color options. I'm more concerned with keeping a solid rail on the balconies themselves than on the stairs. There's no reason that stair rail couldn't be completely open, because hopefully nobody's putting anything on that. I see Nada shaking her head. I'm sorry, Nada. That was a vigorous shake. I couldn't ignore it.
I'm sorry, Steve. Sorry for interrupting, but may I just comment on that? That's not how architecture works. The architecture works that, the balcony and the railing and the stair going down, it's now one entity. And I think we should treat it the same.
It would still be one entity.
We have to, very often the project lead you in a particular direction, and it's not because I like something, it's because it works, unless I am Miss Van der Rohe or Frank Lloyd Wright or whatever. But I think we have to, we appreciate you coming in front of a forum of people who are very thoughtful and spend time addressing and looking and visiting and thinking, and we are all the inhabitants of this town. So we do want this to look wonderful. We want to be proud of this building. Black and all this big bulk does not work, in my opinion, and I am obviously stating my own opinion about the whole thing, but I feel extremely strong about it. And I don't think I will ever drive down Central Street if this remains all black and very opaque. I understand the Weber Grill dilemma, but look at all the high-rises in Chicago. They all have Weber Grills there. It's a part of life.
And they look terrible.
But they also have geraniums, and they have little flowers, and so on. So, and we are living in a village. So let's scale it down to the softness and the fuzziness of where we live. And I happen to know the work of your architects, and it's wonderful. And I respect what they do. I just feel, and I very strongly, along with my colleagues here, want to kind of voice opinion against what you are currently presenting. I like the thinking on reducing the balcony and bringing as a one volume, but you can treat it as I keep saying, as a jewelry on the side, and give it a residential quality, not a harsh, some sort of a, I don't know, some sort of a, I think I've seen something like this on the highways, along the road. Sometimes somebody, creating effects. We don't need effects here. We need something here that you very nobly said yourself, I want to preserve the character of the building. Well, this is not doing it.
Okay. I'd like to give the public an opportunity to comment. If there's any public, whether it be through the television or through the YouTube or on this team meeting. Lucas, could we find out if there's anybody that wishes to comment?
Yeah, I'm looking at Teams chat right now, and we do not have any comments through Teams chat. If I could ask my colleague Lisa Roberts if she could weigh in, and if there's anything on YouTube chat.
Hi, this is Lisa. There's nothing on YouTube chat or email.
Okay, thank you.
So Charles, before we go, could I make one more comment? Are we going to have a chance?
Yeah, I was going to offer the commission one other opportunity here, because I know this is everybody's taking this very much to heart, and it's important that we think this through.
Right.
Yes, please, Doug, you have the floor.
Oh, sure, thank you. I mean, the interesting thing about this is every point of view is correct, and yet they're all different. When I think of grills on patios and other buildings, the patios and the ones you see so often are ones where the patio or the balcony is designed into the building. So it's a part of, whether it's an indentation or it's purposefully hanging out, it's part of as they do kind of the West Loop, some of those interesting ones. This is an old building you're trying to preserve. And if you put up open railing in a substitution for what your design is here, I'm afraid it's going to look like a fire escape. And so it's a difficult dilemma. How do you make a statement, make something different, meet all the egress standards you need to make and still preserve. I mean, I understand what Nada is saying, and I think preservation is important. I'm worried that making it more integrated will undermine that. I just think it's a very difficult problem. And I think one of the things that everybody has kind of danced around is bulk. And 10 by 13 is one good-sized balcony. To the extent that you go back to what many more traditional and older buildings have, that, and I don't know the exact ones, I'm not the architect, but whether it's 6 feet by 12 feet or whatever that is, and grills are not an option, you begin to have something that looks integrated. It's going to be very difficult to have something sticking out this far from a building and have anybody like what it looks like. So those are my thoughts. And just looking at combining that with everybody's stuff out on the balcony, I think would be difficult. So anyway, kind of a semi-opposing but confirmation view.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Doug. Any other queries or comments by the commission?
I guess just one more, and it probably has to do with area and your performer on it. But was there ever an option looked at in the plannings where the 2 stairs were inboard the building without balconies?
No. It takes, it takes a lot of square footage. So we'd like to have it outside.
May I ask a question? Did you discuss with your architect the possibility of a lighter version? We don't want to prescribe what you want to do. We are just kind of giving generic opinion. And when Doug is talking about the railing and being too integrated, we don't want to integrate it. It could be neutral. It could be a square section part that is non-assuming and not trying to have an attention, but it's kind of staying and taking second row to the first row of story of the building, if you know what I mean. I think I would bring this whole issue in front of the architects and ask them how would they react to that. I would love to hear that.
I am the architect.
Oh, am I talking to the architect? Okay.
Yeah,
oh,
we're both here. Steve is the owner. I'm Chris, I'm the architect.
Okay, all right. Well, I am, as you know, in our life, you come to so many problems, they look unsurmountable, and so, but when you start thinking, often they become better solutions than what we had before. I talking from the bottom of my heart. I really wish this project to succeed. I think the floor layouts are fantastic. And I do think these people should have balconies. They live in an area where they should be able to come out. So it's a little bit of a challenge, but maybe we should come up with some sort of a generic goal, which is kind of a visually quiet it down and try to meld it in a little bit more, less aggressive manner. I don't know if that makes sense, but.
It does.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, was there somebody else that had a comment?
I guess I think I'm just going to wait and see what happens next. I'm new to working in your town, so I think we're perfectly. As a designer, I'm happy to continue designing. We can explore other options and present them to you. However, I know that the owner is not going to want to do this for 2 or 3 more months. So is there another method that we can go about doing this, or is this the only platform where we can have a back and forth?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to jump in. Chris, in terms of the Appearance Review Commission's comments on this project, it does need to be discussed at a public hearing. I think if there are ideas that you have, you're more than welcome to send them to me as staff, and I can share them individually with commissioners. But a discussion like this needs to take place at a public hearing. But I think myself as staff can try and help communicate different ideas in between meetings. But in terms of like a final decision and group discussion, that needs to happen at a public hearing.
Okay, Steve, are you still here?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. I'm sorry, I was speaking for you, and perhaps I shouldn't have done that.
No, I think that's a good idea. I think, and if the commission would allow it, if we could kind of tweak this and maybe send to Lucas, and he could distribute to you guys. Hopefully we can work through this in a manner where everyone's satisfied.
Yeah, I would. I'd be certainly, as the chair, I'd be very, very much in favor of working in that manner. I'd also, and I don't want to speak for others, if we needed to have an additional meeting, whether it be mid-month or prior, because I think the next meeting is 5 weeks away. I understand the business side of this too, and that's very important for the village. We want to do both. We want to have a good business outcome, but we've got to get it right because we only get one chance once it's built. So we could either work as you suggested, Lucas, or we could, if the commission was so in favor of, we could add a meeting between now and then. And I don't know if that's possible, Lucas.
Yeah, adding a meeting just because of the timing. Typically applications are accepted like a month ahead of time.
I see. Okay.
So it would be difficult to notice a meeting. It's not to say that it would be impossible, but we're looking at probably more like August 24th being the earliest.
Well, Lucas, is it possible to? I think the idea of submitting some quick and easier drawings, make it as simple as possible to you. You can talk with us individually. I wouldn't think we need a new notice for a new meeting, for a new application. We're just continuing a discussion we're having right now, if that's what we decide to do. And perhaps, the village would view it in that point, and there's some sort of shortened notice, just that the meeting is just being continued. We're in the same meeting, same application, and we haven't had a motion to approve or disapprove. We just want a couple more ideas.
Right. It would need to be noticed. I guess it would.
Yeah, of course.
The case would need to be continued to a date certain. So we would need to know. We would need to decide right now when we're gonna have the next meeting. If it's not going to be September 7th.
I think if we do that, something you suggest the 24th of August. If we do that, I do think that would still require the one-on-ones and Chris developing some ideas so that we can, have a little bit of interface between now and then as well. I'd be open to that, or I'd be open to the one-on-one interface and keeping the September 7th meeting.
I mean, if we could, this is Steve, I mean, if we could do it the 24th, you know, we can get working on, you know, ideas, you know, tomorrow and start filtering stuff over to you guys.
Let me ask, thank you, Steve. Let me ask the commission if we will have people in town, because I know there's travel around at this time of year, maybe not as much as in past years, but will our commissioners be in town on the 24th and available?
I will.
What for the end of the day?
Yeah, so let's just say the same time, 4 o'clock on the 24th.
Yeah, I could do it for one.
Nada?
Yeah, I'm available.
Jeff, are you available?
Right now, yep.
Okay, yeah, I know. Devin?
4 should be okay.
Okay. All right. So I think, Lucas, if we could have the logistics and the protocols work out for that to occur, that would be super. I'd like to summarize on behalf of the group in some ways that there's clearly a couple of different opinions on the issue of the color, the framing and the color of the balconies and railings. We've seen one option, and that is the black bronze. I think it would frankly be beneficial to see a color that was much more in keeping with the original colors of the building, the lighter tones. That would be my recommendation as an option. I think the bulk of the balconies and exterior stairs are of concern to the commission, and finding the right design approach to that would be beneficial, both aesthetically and I would say size-wise. You said 11 by 13, Chris, for the balconies. And I tend to agree with Doug. You know, you go to some balconies on buildings, and it's nice to be able to, you don't need a full sitting room size balcony to have a couple of small personal items out there. So I think I would ask that you look at the sizing of that. Those were the two major issues, I believe, or three major issues: the color, the materiality, and the size of the balconies, and then the color for the window surrounds. Anything else, group, that I missed?
Okay, Charles, in terms of dates, the 24th Monday sounds like it could work. The 31st Monday might be a possibility. The following one is Labor Day, September 7th. We cannot do that stuff.
You're right. Well, I mean, if the 24th works, I'd say we should be working towards that date. That's 3 weeks, correct?
Yes.
So let's try that and see if we can work with our applicant here.
We appreciate it.
I have a question. Lucas, how much can we influence the landscaping? We didn't see much on the landscaping.
Yeah, the landscaping is definitely something that the commission should discuss. There was a landscape plan as part of the package. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Thank you.
Or Chris, if you have it.
It's in the packet.
Yeah.
I could.
Is that the one on A001, sheet A001?
Well, there's the color sheets at the front of that. I think it's the very first one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've got it. I can share my screen.
Yeah, my first color one is almost all white. It's actually the opposite of this. It's the negative of this, so can't read it.
So basically, what we're kind of trying to do for the landscaping plan is use trees and hedges as screening from the alley and from the rear unit on the north side, screening their kind of private space from the neighbors to the east. Additionally, planting some new trees in the parking lot, give some greenage, and then up in the southeast corner.
I would like to say, Chris, that you're dealing here with a very more formal building. Everything is symmetrical, everything is balanced, and I would just like you to take another look at that approach to the building and give it a little bit of a appropriate sort of a response to what the facade is all about. I don't know what you have here on two ends, but where is the what is the gray area? Is that grass or what is it? So maybe that's by the 24th you can give some thought and just let us know about it. But I do feel that you can, in addition to screening and everything, you can give this direct kind of a pairing or the landscape with the building. And I mean,
I don't know how to respond to that. I'm sorry.
Which part is not clear?
Well, we designed it. We designed the landscape for this site for a very specific set of reasons, and this is what we're proposing. Do you have some specific suggestions?
Well, I probably don't understand what's happening on these two corners on the central street. If you can clarify that a little bit better, maybe on the 24th, to give some sort of a formality to the approach when you look at the building from the street.
Well, on the west side along the alley, we have hedges and trees to screen from the alley, which is right there. In the front, we didn't really want to do that much because it kind of detracts from the building itself. On the north, east, and west corners, we kind of mimicked the same kind of pattern to give screening for the ground floor units, one to the alley and then one to the neighbors to the east.
I'm sorry, can I just to jump in real quick, Steve? It just occurred to me, perhaps Nada, are you seeing these colors poorly? Is it not rendering? Are you seeing? Because there's a large green area, and along the left and top edge of this site plan is asphalt. That's the road and the alleyway. So, but is the color rendering off for you?
Yeah, I think it looks fairly gray, but if you squint and look really close, it looks like it. So I am simply asking, is that what you had in mind, grass?
There's grass everywhere that it's green on our site, other than what's the plantings. Yes.
Chris.
And the choices of the planting, had that been already made?
These are our selections. We submitted those last month as well.
Okay. All right.
Chris, is there a pathway for if you're on the east side of that where that exit stair is exterior? Is there a pathway to get to a hard surface?
You know, Caroline in my office just pointed out that we had not indicated one. We haven't discussed it with Steve. It's probably a good idea, although I don't see these stairs being a primary means for people to get in and out. You know, we've got a mail room that's at that lobby wing. So I think primarily people are going to be coming and going in that way, and these stairs are going to be, you know, more emergency egress. That's not to say people won't use them, but I would hate to see a worn patch.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you totally. And I guess my question is it code to have a hard surface to walk away from on an egress stair? Just double check that.
Certainly.
The other question I guess I would have is, and now I guess the longer you're on and looking at something, the more questions you have, but getting furniture in and out of the building, how are you thinking that's going to happen? Because the only way in I see are through a series of single leaf doors. Is that the plan?
Yep. I mean, you're only as good as your smallest door.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I just all of us having been veterans of moving furniture when in our urban youth.
Yeah, it's not a pleasant process.
We do have a service size elevator, so that'll help.
Yeah, I'm just looking at how you get to that elevator. Anyway, that's an interior thing that you'll work out with your tenants.
One last exterior thing. On the west setback, is there no setback on that property line towards the alley?
No, there is. It's small.
Okay.
The existing setback is a couple of feet. We're encroaching a little bit more with our stair than the existing setback, but not much.
So with that, Lucas, I guess a question go to zoning?
We're scheduled to appear before zoning on Wednesday.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. They may comment on that. Okay, all right. So I think this is a lot of in-depth discussion. It sounds like the plan moving forward is for Chris and your team to look at a few different options for us. Lucas will distribute those options, and we will get back together in a formal meeting at 4 p.m. on August 24th.
I just want to ask before this, are there any other concerns on the landscaping before we go back to the drawing board, or do we think that's okay?
I have no additional concerns.
I don't. I think Nada was looking for a little bit of background on the placement of the landscaping, and I think Nada, do you want more of that when we return to a conversation?
I think that this was sufficient clarification.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that is, so we will not call a formal motion on this as a result of this conversation. I think that I think I should make one last call to the public in case there's any public comment that is desired.
Lucas, do we need a motion to continue?
Yeah, so since we're going to continue the case, and it's not going to be at one of our regularly scheduled meetings, there should be a formal motion to continue this case to Monday, August 24th at 4 p.m. That will help. That will eliminate the need to renotice this meeting, which there's not really enough time to renotice that for that meeting. So if you continue to a date certain, then that'll satisfy that requirement.
Okay. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Lucas, do you want to call the roll?
Yes. Nada Endrick?
Yes.
Richard Brill?
Yes.
Devin Castellano?
Yes.
Doug Johnson?
Yes.
Jeffrey Saad?
Yes.
And Charles Smith?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. So hopefully we have a meeting on August 24th. As far as I can tell, no one else is meeting at that time, but we do need to make sure there's no conflict with Park District meetings as well, since we share space and we need a physical space, but for the broadcasting purposes of broadcasting, we need to coordinate that. But as far as I know, we're good for August 24th.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for putting that extra date on for us. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Last formal item to ask if there's any public comment on any topic for people that have joined us. I don't think there's anybody that has joined us, but it's a formality. So with that, I will ask if there is a motion to adjourn.
Motion to continue, please.
Continue the last one, yes.
Right.
But adjourn this meeting.
Right.
Sorry, was there a motion?
A motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yes.
Motion. Yes.
Adjourn the meeting.
Okay. And a second?
Second.
Nada Endrick?
Yes.
Richard Brill?
Yes.
Devin Castellano?
Yes.
Doug Johnson?
Yes.
Jeffrey Saad?
Yes.
And Charles Smith?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Meeting is canceled. Sorry.